Hi guys, what's up? I hope everybody is doing good, and this is just about the right time to bring this video. So, there has been a lot of hue and cry about this paper of auditing. This is the May 2022 paper, and based on the statistics that Board of Studies discussed in one of their videos, 90% people who wrote this paper have failed. So, I did think so because the kind of paper this is, yeah, it is very possible that people get carried away so quickly and people end up doing things that they're not supposed to do. So, which is why I thought I will discuss this paper at length for all those who couldn't qualify this paper in May 2022 and for everybody writing in November 2022. This video is going to be of great use. So I want all of you to watch this through to the end and make sure that you make the most of it and have a clear understanding of how to read a question, how to understand it, what is the perspective behind something being asked, what if suddenly an offbeat question comes in the exam and what are you supposed to do. So these are kind of pretty important things that you have to judge, and you have to be really quick, right? That's the challenge. Given 4 or 5 hours, everybody is doing great with the question paper because you have all the time and patience in the world to read. But when the clock is ticking downwards on a 3-hour timeline, reading it immediately on one read, if you have to write the answer, you might possibly start thinking that okay, this is what they are asking, and then you end up writing your own story. So I just want to start off with the most crucial part here, which is the correct incorrect part. Now I do know so many people last time who've got good marks in MCQs, but they have had terrible marks in the descriptive part. It makes me a little shaky to say that, but I have seen people get 2 or 3 out of 70 and then just get 22, 23 in the MCQs whose totals were about 25. I think many of you can relate to this. Also, I will give you the reason this why almost 90% people who wrote this paper failed is because I'm not saying that you failed because you don't know the subject. I'm saying that you failed because you got to kind of prove that fact that you know it, but which people couldn't. And most of that drama happened when the questions are framed in such a way. So instead of just talking so much, I would just straight away push you through to what you're supposed to do and also give you certain presentation aspects. So let's start with the correct incorrect part. And this is one part that I actually always want people to focus on because it's 14 solid marks and you can pick that up straight up, and there is a huge possibility of getting 14 out of 14 if you just get the whole sequence right. The way you write this is very important because many people have just been writing the question again as the reason for why it is correct or incorrect, and that doesn't make any sense. All right, let's just take a couple of questions. For the first one to start off with, pervasive is a term that is used in the context of misstatements to describe the effect on the financial statement of misstatements or possible effects on the misstatement, if any, that are detected by obtaining sufficient appropriate audit evidence. Now, if you see this and read it just like on one go, most times it just goes on to say that it's a right thing because pervasive term used in the context of misstatements to describe the effects of financial statements. It's all cool till there, but uh, you know how is it by obtaining sufficient appropriate audit evidence? So when we are talking about material and pervasive, material but not pervasive, this could be sometimes because of the inability to obtain sufficient appropriate audit evidence, not when it is exactly detected by obtaining sufficient appropriate audit evidence. So this is that kind of a point. Just by one particular word or line here, you get carried away. Many people go with, yeah, it's a bang on correct statement, let's mark it correct. And I did see many people do that when they shared their answer papers with me. Bang on correct, yes, pervasive term used, right? You got to get to that particular part because there is that one particular catch that is there in that statement that's going to give you 2 marks. And literally in this particular question, you don't have to write any new answer other than just writing this whole paragraph but for the fact that here you're saying that you are unable to, or they are left undetected due to sufficient appropriate audit evidence. So here they're saying they are detected by, you just go on to say by, they are undetected by the inability to obtain evidences. So that's a very tricky part of that question. Then audit findings and control deficiencies can be evaluated or assessed arbitrarily. I think this is a straight statement that goes to be incorrect, because see, all the time you can't do that. Sometimes they are apparently visible, but sometimes you have to clearly understand each one as a separate case. So audit findings or control deficiencies, they involve more of professional judgment. It's not like a precise arbitrary judgment that take it, this is what it is. So this one goes on to say that again, it's a straight question, but I think you can easily find this one up. Inappropriate management can override controls of any organization. Now if you have gone through the whole paper, this is the only correct incorrect statement that stands as correct. Of course, wrong people in the management can always override the controls. All you need to do is to just write that and write probably an example saying that management can override controls if they are not properly checked or set up. So it's an easy stuff. Once the audit plan has been drafted and communicated, it is obligatory. Now this is a key word here, that they have to follow the same. I think all of you who have heard standard 300 will very much agree that there is a provision in the standard for revising the audit plan, and there is no reason why you have to just stick to a particular thing. So if you are able to see those tricky parts of each question, they're just that one word or two word that really is the key in picking up what your answer should be. So that is pretty much incorrect. According to Caro, the audit is required to state whether the title deeds and immovable properties are held in the name of the company are disclosed in its financial statements. Now, see, on any other day, if they are not held, that is when you disclose. Otherwise, this pretty much continues to remain the same. So let me just zoom in a little bit here, so you can see this part of the question is again an incorrect statement. 520 deals with use of substantive analytical procedures. Alright, this is one question that I have been mentioning to people so many number of times, and this is not a question that has been coming now. This has been a question that they have been asking ever since even I was a student, or even maybe before that. So look at the question, this one, standard number 520, and everybody who wrote correct to this statement will relate to what I am saying just after a minute. SA 520 deals with the auditor's use of analytical procedures as substantive procedures as the near end of the audit that assists in the preparation of financial statement. Now, it's a bang on straight and clear, no problem statement. Everybody looks at it, yeah, of course, and this word takes you so much to the answer that it is also there in the book. But if you watch my revision videos or you've heard my class, you've been my student, I would have shouted my heart out in the class that yes, this statement is fine, but it is not the end of the story. Okay, so you're not supposed to understand that these are not something that we do in preparation of financial statements, right? And one more thing about analytical procedures is that you analyze what has already been prepared. That's a till here, because people get to see analytical procedures, near end of the audit procedures, it assists the auditor. You might not even read this part. The most tricky part this time is the fact that they are talking. It's such a damn simple question, but because everything till 3 lines look as simple as that, people go, it's the line should be what? It helps the auditor in forming a conclusion, not in deciding or preparing any financial statement, because actually the question itself is against the objective of audit. The objective of audit is not to prepare financial statements, right? So look at that, little bit of a catch. Everything else perfectly pulled out from the standard. Standard clearly mentioned the statement that auditor will be able to draw a conclusion at the near end of the audit procedures when he uses analytical procedures. So it looks absolutely fine, and you just have to get to this. Okay, so look at the depth in the paper. That's what I'm talking about. And this is not something that you can crack directly when you walk into the exam hall without proper preparation. So I know the video is going to be a little long. You got to spend this time to understand what you're supposed to do. Also, by the end of the video, I will be sharing some exclusive presentation tips which should be useful in framing the answers. So please watch this through, because many people don't wish to spend time on these kind of videos. Rather than they want to finish reading something, find a shortcut. So spend time, understand. Even if you're spending a half an hour, I think it'll all be worth it, because it is definitely going to save a lot of time. It's much better than writing the paper again, right? So it's just true or false that we're doing now. Once done, we'll talk about questions. I'll show you some questions that is going to be, like, they're crazy out there. Misappropriation of assets is often accompanied by a false or misleading record or document in order to conceal the fact that assets are missing or they have been pledged with proper authorization. Now, this is basically they are talking about misappropriation of asset. Now, false and misleading records are something that are a very much part of a fraud, that we know very clearly. But once again, the actual killer here is just a word, okay? So you have to read it again with patience. What does it say? Misappropriation of assets often accompanied by false or misleading records. All of that part is absolutely fine. You are doing that in order to conceal the fact that the assets are missing or they have been pledged with the proper authorization. The word should be without. That's all. You're just seeing that 2 marks for you to identify the serious part of a grammar there, right? Because that grammar is what makes the whole sentence. Now, people who are not reading these sentences with care and caution, you are just going on writing that this statement is true. I've seen papers where they did that for the first one, 6th one, the 7th one. They're not reading it. They are also, when you talked about evidence, they said yes. Here also when they're saying with proper authorization, because what happens when we read 60% of the sentence, we kind of already make it in our mind that okay, this must be that sentence only, and we will read it with that intention. So the with also looks like okay, it's part of the sentence. Nuances, small details, they are very important. And of course, I think the last one is a straight up. This one I think everybody should have got it right. Materiality is not a matter of size. That is an incorrect statement. Materiality is also a matter of size and nature. I think everybody who studied that chapter would possibly have an understanding of. You see, very less questions from the depth of company audit or anything there. So many questions from audit report. First one from audit report, Caro, which is ideally a part of audit report. Okay, and then this misappropriation of assets is from fraud, materiality, planning. Lots of questions from the unexpected portions. What do people normally think is that we'll get questions from company audit. So and so company has so much turnover. Is rotation applicable to them, or is internal audit applicable to them? We generally expect that sort of questions to come here, and this is one offbeat paper. If you are very thorough with my first set of 3 revision videos, which I cover almost all these standards with, I mean in the syllabus wise, it's the first set of 8 chapters ranging from the nature, that is the first chapter to the 8th on analytical procedures. If you are thorough with that, I think you are going to be doing great in this sort of a paper. But again, like I said, descriptive part was really terrible from people. And okay, so this is what the true or false of this paper is. Now let me give you a piece of advice here, very important when it comes to answering correct incorrect. The main idea of doing this session for me is to give you the take home points, not just give you the answers. These answers are already there in suggested. You can always go and check them, but you all know how like there are so many papers where people are not getting marks even when the answer matching with suggested, because okay, that's one correction part of the story, but there is a lot that goes into making an answer. Word to word, there is no possibility that everybody out there can match. So what I want you to do in all correct incorrect answers is stay focused on the theme. Many people are not even writing whether it's correct or incorrect. They're getting zeros for that. So first and foremost, take home, you write correct or incorrect. Write what is correct or incorrect. You side head it with that. Okay, then only you'll be able to do something, right? And then your second point is reason. Make sure that you write the reason, not the question again. Okay, you're writing the question in a different tone, or because if now this in this particular case, For example, in this question, you have to exactly write the whole question, but just that make sure that you have this word with is replaced as without. So that makes sense there, because that's how the question is framed also. So there it's okay. But elsewhere you're doing the same thing, it makes no sense, you know. Some people are just writing inappropriate management can override internal controls of any organization. True or correct. Same sentence. Now, what is the main logic? What do you say? What is the support for the statement? What is the main reason? Unless you are going to do this, you are not going to get marks. Even if you write correct or incorrect, and then don't write the proper reason, you will still lose it. So please be mindful of that one thing. So I mean, like, almost 15 minutes that I spent right now on discussing true or false is just to make sure that you would be able to get these 14 out of 14. Your concept should be damn strong. Even if your concepts are strong, make sure that you present it properly. Just check the suggested answers once. It's an earnest request from me. I'd share the link in description for the suggested answers that are released by ICA for this paper. You can just click on the link and see it, and later write the side heading, correct, incorrect, and then read what they have given as a reason. For every question, there has to be that side heading and the reason. Then only you are going to get marks. Let's move on. Let's get deeper into the story. And these are some very interesting questions this time. Some of them are unexpected. Again, a question from Caro, but this one is easy because it's just the applicability that they're asking for. So I guess here there should not be much of a problem in answering this. So what would be the ideal steps to answer this question would be, so G Limited is has a fully paid up capital of so much and all of that. So first what I'm supposed to do is I have to write, this is a question for 4 marks. So what has happened with G Limited will be secondary story. It's a private limited company and they didn't mention it being a subsidiary of any public limited. So before even you discuss any of these numbers, first you have to write the complete applicability of Caro. That is very important. Many people straight away went into the answer saying Caro is applicable, not applicable. Here I am taking the numbers. So taking this logic, okay, what did that say? 1.2 crores, and during the financial year COVID restriction, the company incurred losses to the tune of 25 lakhs. So I think you know that 1.2 crores minus that loss has to be adjusted, so it will come down to 95. And during the year, the company also borrowed 55 lakh each from a bank and financial institution. Look at that. Borrowed 55 lakh each. So that would be 55 and 55, which is 1.1 crores. And it has a turnover of 850. Plus, we will always add up what is from discontinuing. So that is about, 1100 lakhs. That means about 11 crores. Is that how you are going to call it? 11 crores. Right. So it's very clear that Caro is applicable to this entity. Is Caro applicable to the entity? Answer is yes. So first, you write the provision completely, fully in detail. Caro is applicable to everyone except that entire thing. That will get you 2 marks. That is, this applicability provision is going to get you 2 marks. Then after you write applicability, you are going to state the facts. Okay. What facts are you going to state? So their borrowings are 55 plus 55. Their capital is 1.2, but they incurred a loss of 25. So based on the provisions, it should be 95 and 11 crores because it includes discontinuing. All this you write, and then finally you will be writing the conclusion. So this provision for 2 marks. If you write the facts correctly, that give you 1 mark because you are expressing the facts. And then if you get to the answer correctly by linking the facts and the provision, you'd get. So this is how you end up getting 4 marks. Major part is on, equal split for 2 and 2. You don't write the provision, you're going to lose 2 marks. So irrespective of how correct you write these 2, you are still going to get only 2 marks. Some of them have been asking me, sir, I wrote everything correct. Why are they giving only 2? This is the reason. Because you didn't write the provision. You only wrote what is there in the question again and just said yes, Caro is applicable. Nobody's going to give you marks for that. Okay. So that is one point. And then this is one kind of an easy question. Then let's just talk about, this is again a question from audit report. Last time the weightage on audit report is so much. Right. The auditor, while carrying out the audit, started comparing various items of profit and loss with the previous years. So what is the auditor trying to achieve here? Comparison with previous years will indicate what? It's the analytical procedure. This is straight out of the question book. 4 points are there in the answer. This is a chapter 8 question and they are just trying to give you a lead on You can check a question called purpose of analytical procedure. It's a 4 points answer. So if you write those 4 points, you'd straight be able to get those marks. There is nothing much there, and it's a straight question, I mean to say. CN is the auditor of SR Limited. The auditor expresses opinion on financial statement without ascertaining as to whether the financial statements all right. I think that gives you a perspective what are you supposed to write. You need to it's a basic chapter 1 question. In your opinion, whether they have complied the objectives of audit. It's on the very first page of our audit book that the objective is to express an audit after you obtain sufficient appropriate audit evidences and then to report in accordance with standards, which they haven't done. So if you can express the 2 points in the objective, it should be good. 2 points in the objective and then the fact that this particular CAN has not done that. This is a very offbeat question again. Generally they don't give these type of questions in regular audit paper. If you scan through the last 5 attempt papers, you'd never find a question like this asking you to compute a drawing power and stuff like that. In this case, stock is about 50,000, debtors about 45, 45 minus 5 you'd have 40. Then marginal stock is about 20%. So debtors is about 50%, and so this 50,000 of stock minus what you owe to creditors is 15. So you just have to go by the calculations, and in this case you would probably 50 minus 15, this would come to 35, and the margin on stock with respect to that is about 20%, so that is 7,000. So 28 will be available here, and debtors are about 45, 5 not included, 40, and margin is about 50. So 20 from debtors. So eventually both put together will be 48, but I think they have a sanction limit calculation. The sanction limit is only 45, so maximum that are eligible to do is 45. So this one, if you know this calculation, if you have been taught about this, I think you would get the 3 marks straight. So these kind of questions are rare but easy, but you got to apply what is right and what is wrong. So this is how you take up each question. Let me see if there are any other question. Okay, what happened with them is engaged in trading of garments. Okay, the promoter of the company are promoters and directors of other group companies also. You have been appointed as the auditor of P Limited. It has entered with various intercompany transactions which are outside the normal course of business. I hope you remember the discussion of arm's length transaction here. So this is a question from SA 550, or it's a question based on related parties, right? So what is the duty of the auditor when it comes to reporting on related parties? That's what you're supposed to do here. So first and foremost thing, you got to check those contracts. So you got to write the 550 provisions. There's a paragraph on the duties of auditor, right? That he has to understand the intention, the main business rationale. Yeah, that's right, what I was missing. So business rationale, what is the main idea? Are you doing for a proper business, or are you going to do it because you're planning something fraudulently? The idea of those, whether the transactions have been conducted at arm's length price, if it's done other than arm's length price, is there a proper justification? So it's a 550 question. There are, I guess, about 3 points with that point on business rationale. So you can check that. And then 135 is an offbeat question again. Now this is not there in general audit discussions that we do. We don't get this, but you are being asked because you already studied this in group 1. You know the section from group 1, 135. Now they're asking you from the audit perspective. This is an absolute offbeat question for 4 marks. They have an unspent amount on CSR. What would be the duties of the company? Shall be disclosed by the company. So they're saying what matters other than those shall be disclosed by the company. So this is a question which you should obviously be studying from law. What is that unspent amount? Which means like the gap, the shortfall, you can call it as. Right, what is it, why, and what are you planning to do with it, within what time you got to spend that, you have to give those details. It's clearly there in 135. Probably if you know 135, the problem is some of you write only group 2, and when you write only group 2 you forget the provisions of group 1, right, what you studied there. That could be one of the killers of 4 marks. Otherwise this could be a straight and simple question. Look at the time it's taking to just decode questions. So which is why 90% of people failed in this paper. I don't know how many of you have watched this patiently till here and are watching till the end. But if you have been watching till here, watch it through. This is what you are supposed to learn. Like, it's not just about simply reading some content by hearting and going. This is what it really takes to, kind of crack these kind of papers. Look at the next one. It's, I think, a straight question. The newly appointed auditor for BTN Limited wants to obtain sufficient appropriate audit evidence about opening balances. So it's a classic essay 510 question. So in the opening balances, well, basically questions are pretty simple, okay, but the way they're supposed to be understood, that many people are missing. So whether previous year balances have been brought down properly, and whether accounting policies have been followed with consistency. So that's a 510 3-pointer. That's why they gave it for 3 marks. The auditor of HKL Limited completed the audit in an automated environment. I think it's a question that many of you ignore and go, you don't study that chapter only. I don't know for what hatred, but they're just asking you. Management of the company requested the auditor to give an idea about any exceptions that are observed in IT environment. Now, if you just pull out your book and see, one straight question will be there on this with a few points. Like, are there any weakness in internal control? If those weaknesses are there, how will it impact the software in the long run? Whether those can be rectified or not. This will probably be the last but one page of your chapter, where, or in any page there in and around, but it's one of the last topics there. Just to, how do you report on these things? So how should the auditor consider the request and report? Audit reporting of deficiencies in automated environment is the last topic there. It has like 3-4 points. Again, these are things that if you can study and go, you can score straight, because see, as of now, there's nothing so deep or tricky, but reading the question and understanding is what matters till now. And okay, let's get to some Companies Act stuff here. They're talking about auditor acting in an unlawful manner. Okay, is an auditor of this company engaged in manufacturing so and so thing, while auditing got aware of some secrets of the company. Okay, the auditor acted in unlawful manner in a way to deceive or gain an advantage over others, and he also encouraged and assisted the directors to do something wrong. Okay, I think this is somebody who's an imaginary character, because if you and I are doing that, then you know what I generally say, that right, we'll get a long holidays. Another company has requested you to guide how such acts are covered under Companies Act 2013 and what consequences auditor might face. I think all of you know what to write here. Section 147 of the Companies Act is punishment for contravening the provisions of the act. The auditor part, if you write, I think that should be good enough here. If the auditor is assisting them and doing that, you can also make a mention of section 140 subsection 5, which we discussed, as in terms of tribunal passing an order if you are abetted or colluded with the company for doing any fraud, and if they catch hold of you. So you can write a reference to section 147, what will happen for contravening, that to pakka you right. Plus you can mention about 140 subsection 5, and also you can mention the fact that in 447, if auditor is caught for fraud, he will be punished with a fine that ranges up to 3 times the amount of fraud involved, and you may go also to jail, which the maximum imprisonment can go up to 10 years. So you can mention about 147 and 140 subsection 5, a reference to 447. What are normally if the auditor does wrongdoing? But is there a direct answer to this question in the book? Answer is a big no, because this is an answer that you have to coin in the exam. Okay, you got to extract things from 147, 140, 447 and get this going in the right way. Otherwise, you're not getting any marks in this one. Okay. Okay, again a question back on 240. This I think is a straight question. The auditor of RMP Limited has identified a fraud. He's already identified it. In his opinion, that caused a material misstatement in the financial statement. Management personnel and higher management cadre are associated. Alright, I think that's straight out of the book question. But the auditor has not been able to understand what this type of fraud is. Guide him with some reasons why this type of fraud is committed. I think you have to write about the story of why there is manipulation of accounts, incentives, pressures, those points are there, right? So the top management wants to show something, maybe to avoid income tax, to what do you call that, investor thing, to attract investors, to avoid income tax, and then maybe to, it's other, in other words, you're calling cooking the books. So this is a straight out of the book question. This one has an answer as to reasons why the top management indulge in doing a fraud. You have 4 or 5 points, you can straight catch up to that. The next question is about SPR Limited is in a media business since 1990. Okay, In 2021-22, many notices were received for hurting public sentiments. All right, now this is some news channel which started making false statements, and because of that, they hurt public sentiments. Financial claims were made against the company. Okay, what do we need in the exam? Not to go with the flow, but to understand that okay, this is a question on contingent liabilities. When somebody's put a case on you, I think in my class I have always discussed about the example of Maggie, the one that Nestle had to face, the one that Dairy Milk had to face, the one that Coca-Cola had to face, because when they found worms in chocolates or insects in the drinks, any time when it goes against the public, a case has been filed. This time sentiments were hurt, which is the current generation story, sentiments being hurt. So a case has been filed, and you have a meeting with the external legal counsel. Management of the views that such meetings are necessary in some circumstances only. So you got to find out what exactly are those circumstances. Can you list down these circumstances? It's a straight 2-point or 3-point question from the standard. This one will go with SA 501. 3 special items and the second selected item. You have to mention these, guys. People don't even want to mention the standard numbers, which part of the standard. If you are not absolutely confident, which many of you are, according to the standards on auditing, according to this, according to that, such general answers will not earn marks. Okay, so you got to be very careful about that. And then it's a, otherwise it's a straight thing. It's, you need to discuss with the external legal counsel, and the matter is complex when the management themselves are not responding, or if that particular thing could result in significant risk. If that contingent liability tomorrow can turn out to be against you and a significant risk, then you have to report. So okay, for me sitting here, since I'm doing this daily, I'd be able to tell the answer, but for you guys to catch up this in the exam, get that in the head and write, it's the the nuance, the timeline is very important to pick up what is the right answer. Many people are writing answers, but they don't even care whether it is right or wrong. They just want to write the answer. So don't do that. Be a little more cautious about what you are dealing with. Otherwise, this part of, I think, the fourth question is a damn straight one as of now. And what's the last one? After becoming a chartered accountant, you've got your first assignment as an auditor of the bank's branch, dealing in various types of advances. What are the areas which you would be looking for obtaining sufficient appropriate audit evidence in? Reviewing internal controls. This is a question from the 4th chapter, which talks about the internal controls. What sort of evidences? Now, in the bank, okay, right, your audit. Okay, this one would be a question from audit of banks plus internal control mix. There is a paragraph in the initial part of the bank audit chapter which talks about we have to check whether there is a loan was given with proper documentation after enforcing the creditworthiness of the person, complying with RBI norms while giving the loan. That's again a straight question, so 3 marks. This one only 4A is something very tricky because you have to coin the answer from various places. Otherwise the other 3 bits are straight and simple. Okay, here the auditor did something again while auditing, documented all the papers. He retained some of the documents and on which he has not worked along with the documents. Okay, listen, this is again a very tricky question for a simple reason that they are testing your understanding about standard number 230 and the right of auditor with respect to right of lien. Now, there are 2 things here. When you talk about documentation, what does 230 say? You are allowed to document whatever you worked on. That part is clear. But he has retained some of the documents which he has not worked on. So, this question is about your right of lien, and one of the conditions in lien clearly says that you can retain only those documents that you have worked on which the fees is outstanding. So, are you doing that or not is something to be seen there. So this question is on writing the 4 conditions of lien, and he say the comment the action of the auditor. In this case, CAG is not entitled to do that because he retained some document that he did not work, and as per the provisions of lien, he cannot retain that is something that you have to conclude the answer as. Okay, 5B is a question from Caro here, and this is about the Benami Transactions Act that is recently introduced. So, recently introduced into Caro. The proceedings have been initiated against False Limited. What a name for a company, right? Under the Benami Transactions Act and the rules made thereunder, but such property is not recorded in the books of accounts. As the consultant, not as an auditor. Watch again. That is why many people couldn't qualify this paper. Every question there is one bit that's straight away taking 4 marks away. So in a series of 6 questions, like there are 20-25 marks have already been taken away from you because people don't read these questions to that depth. So out of the 70 marks that the test is, 30-35 marks have already been taken away from you with those small tricky words. So this, as a consultant, what will you advise a company as far as disclosure requirements are concerned? So they are not asking you to pass an opinion, because if you don't disclose this, tomorrow the question will be the auditor will qualify. They're not asking you that. So you have to read the explanation to this point in Karo, which says that, you know, what is the property, where is it situated, who is the actual beneficiary. If you are holding it in Benami name, somebody should be the beneficiary, right? And if you are not carrying it in the books, they're not clearly saying they're not recorded in the books. The reason for not carrying such Benami property in the books, that all have to be written. If you go through fixed assets part of company auditors report order, and the last point in that, you will be able to get this answer straight. This is a tricky question. This is a offbeat question, not generally asked. But this is like taking away 4 marks from a student, because I can't expect every student to write this answer with absolute precision. So this one is like, if I rate this question in the level of on a scale of 10 for being tough, this one is a 10 on 10 tough question for people who don't study and go at all. People who are aware also, unless they write it correctly, they're not going to get marks. So this is like snatching away 4 marks from you. The approach to audit, sometimes I keep telling, they throw up 4 marks, this way they give you snatch also. The approach to audit and the extent of checking are undergoing a progressive change in favor of more attention towards principle and control, the curtailment of non-consequential routine checking. Discuss the given statement. Now, to be very honest, even in one go, I also didn't understand the statement, so I have to read it again now. I read what was there, but I have to read it again to understand what they are asking, because they're asking me to discuss that statement. So what are they talking about? The approach to audit and extent of checking are undergoing a progressive change, okay, in favor of more attention towards the questions of principle and controls, with a curtailment. That means to curtail here is to cut down non-consequential routine checking. Okay. They snatched away 3 marks, right? You have to agree. How many of you can really figure out that this question is from sampling? Okay, it's easy to figure out, but you got to just not let the key go. See, they're telling that they have curtailed the non-consequential routine checking, and the extent of checking is undergoing a very progressive change. Okay, so this is like, I mean, why you are using sampling as an audit procedure? A justification has to be written for this. Guys, this is an amazing question. If they really have to screw you up, this is the kind of question that they ask you. So, those of you who wrote May-22 and left question number 5 in choice, you guys have made an amazing decision, because 7 marks are not there for you straight away. If you don't, I don't think everybody at your level reads to this depth and goes to the exam. And one more thing here is identifying this to be the lean also. Many people don't do. They write references to documentation. They will tell that, auditor can keep the documentation with him. Because here also, though it's looking okay, because I could recognize it lean in one go, I am just being a little partial. But otherwise, the word not work should be the trigger. So, question number 5 is like a killer. As of now, 11 marks is a stringent one, and okay, this one, while auditing such transaction of a treatment hospital, I don't think I have to read the whole thing. It's just about they're asking you to points to be considered. This is a special audit question. This is an easy one. So only 3 marks. That too, here people write nonsense when they talk about hospital audit. So if you write the exact point, there's a scope of getting one. 5th one has been a real killer. Now the problem is, sir, it's only the 5th question. But these questions, when you're reading in the reading time, if you don't get the answer at one go, in the first 15 minutes itself, it will give you an impression that, okay, this is a very tough part for me to crack. So, that could happen, and which is why these kind of questions are dangerous. And the last one, they're asking you to, communicate about PP in the report. So this is again a question on company auditors report order. They haven't spoken about reporting on the PP. That's the first point in okay, let me just check this. Wait, the company takes property in a barter deal. Okay, fine. The properties obtained during the year to such barter have been considered in the books of accounts, and the basis of quotation they have been included in the PP. Okay, cool. So this is the question they have included. So you just have to okay, I got carried away thinking seeing PP. I got carried away with Caro. No, this is a question. How do you mention in the audit report? You got to put in the EOM paragraph. Why EOM? Because it has been already considered in the books of accounts. Okay, my bad. See. Okay, so this is exactly what I've made this video for. We get carried away, and this is one of the live proofs, and I can admit that because the moment I saw PPE, I thought they're asking a question on reporting on it, and which is a Caro question. No, once I get to read that, then I understand that they have done something, but they have considered in the books. So you might, how do you report what already company has considered or what is properly reported? So you have to go with the EOM paragraph. So this is a SA 706 question, not a Caro question. Internal audit not only analyzes the effectiveness with which internal control is operating, but it also improves the effectiveness of internal control. Explain the statement. So effectiveness of internal control is a straight question from 4th chapter. What are the benefits of doing that? I think this one, if you study the 4th chapter question and go, you should not have a problem. The senior member of firm Coren Associates informed to its audit staff that at the time of reporting corresponding figures, it's a question from SA 710. That is exactly what are the exceptional circumstances. They snatched away again 4 marks. People leave the standard and choice and go, but it's a straight question. When corresponding figures are presented, the auditor's opinion shall not refer to the corresponding figures except in the specified circumstances. 2 circumstances are there that we have to make a mention of. So if there is a basis of modification paragraph where you talk about if the matter is still continuing relevance, there is a word called continuing relevance. So if anything that is still continuing like that even in the current year, that has to be reported. And also if these have any effects to the comparability of the current period numbers, if there is any alteration and all that. So there are 2 cases that you have to mention here. When a company is working in automated environment, it is not necessary for the auditor to understand its automated environment. Okay, do you agree with this statement? It makes kind of no sense. It is important that you understand. 8 points are there for understanding the automated environment. You have to quote all those 8 points and say, in this case, since it's for 3 marks, you might not even want to quote all the 8 points, but there are at least 5 to 6 points easily you can quote and say, auditor definitely has to have the knowledge of automated environment. And the last question goes by saying that the accountant observed the amount received from A has been recorded in the books of B and the mistake was found at the time of tallying. Okay, what type of error is this? I think you have, this is an error of commission while posting. So they are asking you, can you give 2 more examples of such error and how the same will be detected. So this is the story of casting error, posting errors, the type of errors you have to mention, and this is error of commission. So you can give a little more on that. While totaling it can go wrong, or amount can be recorded on the wrong side. You know the story of errors, right? But again, it's an offbeat question. You don't expect somebody to ask you a question on the errors when it comes to this. So one hell of a paper, guys. Now, if you really have spent 40 minutes of this time in watching this, I'd give you a couple of very important suggestions, and I'll also mark this up in the beginning. So if at all you're referring this video to any of your friends, by watching it completely, do tell them that it's worth watching and understanding how tricky each questions are and how we have to break each one of those. And let me give you, or at least you can tell them that straight away they can jump to this about in 45 minutes time. They can straight away go to that part to listen to the last 5 minutes or so. So 1, Most important thing, read. Okay, the full question, very important. These are the takeaways from what we have done here. You got to read the full question very carefully. Anybody who's reading partial questions in this kind of a paper, they are screwing it up. So it's very important that you read the full question. Two, it's a very important thing to answer in points. Always answer in points. Don't write lengthy paragraphs. None of these questions that you saw in this particular paper, they have any reference to do with any lengthy paragraphs and all that. And three, make sure to quote standards, quote essays, essay numbers and sections. You have to quote, because this is one kind of a paper where they're expecting you to be spot on, and for you to be spot on, we really need you to focus on that piece, otherwise you're not getting the marks there. And then most importantly, many people are not writing conclusions. You are writing the provision and leaving, or not writing the provision and all that. So a complete answer has, so what is the definition of a complete answer? So if you look at what is the definition of a complete answer, it should have one, the provision. The provision should be clearly mentioned. Two, it should have the facts of the case. Three, it is very important to write the conclusion. And unless you don't do these three, you're not going to get these marks. So sometimes it's 2-1-1 split, sometimes it's 1-1-1 split for a 3 marks answer, sometimes it could be 1-2 and 1 for a 4 marks answer. So it totally depends on what you're writing and answer in points. And every word, see, with, without, right, and, or, either, these kind of words, and that too in this particular paper, there have been so many small twists and turns. So, and capitalize on true or false, guys. So keep these just 4 points in mind, nothing beyond that. Presentation is more about expression of your mind. Okay, so is there a standard pattern of presentation for all the answers? No. So what you need to really be focused on is how can we get things going in the right way, and that will be done when you follow these 4. And I wish all of you can start inculcating this as a habit. Okay, I have already put out in the previous video of mine the audit, EISSM RTP. I try and see if I can put the audit RTP discussion also, but now that we did the discussion of this question paper, it's pretty much going to be the same. So I want you to focus on this. And I'm really worried about the fact that if 90% people are failing a paper, it could be due to lack of preparation, it could be because of preparation but not able to present, and sometimes it's sheerly only about not performing the exam. Some students who I personally know have studied very well, and I believe they have very good knowledge in audit, but they have not been able to qualify the exam. There are a lot of people who got in 30s. That means they've got about 20-22 marks in MCQs. Then they just got 8-10 out of the 70 marks in descriptive. So please do take care of presentation. And as I told you, the mantra is very simple. Presentation is just the expression of mind. Keep these 4 points. Do let me know in the comments if you have any questions, and if you think that I would be able to give you an approach to answer that, you can leave such comments. Or you also have my Instagram handle and Telegram handle to directly reach me out at CA Harish Krishnan. You can post your questions on any aspects, or if you have any doubts at this point of time, you can even ask that. And I'm trying to get through to you to a live session for discussing some important things that are essential for the exam. And also there have been requests on Caro 2020's live session, which I would definitely be doing before your exam. So I hope this session will help you to grab an understanding of what you're supposed to do in a subject like audit. It's not important that you just know the subject, but you also know how to take it forward. That's what a quality of a good auditor would be. You take it forward to the client. So if you've really watched this video, I think it's almost about 50 minutes that I've started this entire session. So if you have hung up right from the beginning to the end, or if you have jumped and come to the conclusion and didn't miss the last 4 or 5 minutes, for whatsoever be it, thanks for watching the video. Do let me know if you have helped it. Share it with your friends at this point of time, because everybody is in a state of panic when they're preparing for the exams. something like this for them could like refresh their mind, saying that okay, if I work hard, I will be able to do better. This gives that kind of a confidence. And like I said, if you have any questions, do let me know in the comments. I will see you soon in my next video. Thank you. Have a great preparation, guys. Thank you once again.